Hi, thank you for joining us. This is Serena Sun, founder and director of Breaking Taboo. Welcome to our audio video podcast where we talk about a variety of mental health issues and we work toward breaking the taboo around them. So today I am here with Julie Lyons. Julie Lyons does something quite unique. She is a dissociative identity expert. She is also a certified master life coach and a licensed independent social worker in private practice. So, Julie, welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm thrilled to be here with you. It's an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much, Julie. Well, I'm thrilled to be here with you as well and to learn a bit about DID, which is Dissociative Identity Disorder. For all of you out there, some of you may have heard of it, but there are a lot of misconceptions around this, and it's one of those disorders that is not that well known. Compared to other mental health issues. So obviously Julie here is the expert in this. So why don't you start us off by telling us what exactly is DID? How would you describe it? How do you see it usually manifesting in people?
Well, um, actually, DID is simply put, it's a disconnection from the present moment. So a lot of people have heard about mindfulness and being in the present moment. Well, this is just the total opposite of that, not being present in the moment.
Interesting. Okay, so
hmm
how do you usually see that manifest? How does it play out?
And also, I can give you the clinical definition, which I don't really like, but
Okay,
it's
what is the clinical definition?
um, right out of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's having two or more, up to 200 have been reported personalities, distinct personalities, and and designated by abrupt changes in mood or behavior. And the third thing is memory gaps that are not explained by just normal forgetfulness. Like, you walk into a room and say, what am I here for? It's a lot more complicated than that.
I see. Okay. And you just said that you don't really agree with that definition, and
I
why is
mean,
that?
I don't want to say that. That's really the specific definition of it.
Mhm.
And I don't like the diagnostic manual, is what I meant to say.
What do
I
you
don't
mean?
like diagnosing people with a label.
I
And
see.
mhm,
I see. So the whole manual, you don't like the whole DSM.
right, right, right.
That's interesting because a lot of therapists that I talk to, you're definitely not the only one to say that because many therapists and myself, and I also find it to be very limiting. And yeah, categorizing people and feelings and emotions and issues like this, mental health is so complex and so broad. It's such a wide range of how we experience it. But at the same time, that's what it makes it such a challenge. Like, that's what makes it such a challenge. That's what makes it kind of difficult to treat. So, on that hand, I also understand the DSM because you need something like a structure, something there to be able to like treat people and follow certain guidelines or codes or better understand, and so I see both sides of it, and I totally get what you're saying, Julie. And but as far as DID goes, how would you describe the symptoms yourself based on what you've seen in either your patients or just other people in general? How do you see them typically manifesting?
Well, I loved how you were talking about people's uniqueness on your
Hmm.
website.
Hmm.
And listening to you, I thought, I don't even have to show up for my interview because you really nailed it. Um,
Well,
people,
thank you.
yes,
Which part of the website? Like, what did I say?
you were talking about how people are so unique and they
Mhm.
have different parts to themselves,
Right,
and everyone has a genius part.
right.
And so when people have DID, they tend to to disconnect from reality and go into the parts of themselves that were meant to cope with trauma. And they came out to cope with what was happening in the past to them, and so they tend not to want to look at those parts. So I loved what you said about finding, embracing all of your parts, your uniqueness and your genius. And now this is just about also embracing the parts of ourselves that we don't like and some that really get in the way of our functioning.
Interesting. I mean, the way that the DSM describes it almost makes it sound like multiple personality disorder. And I know that there have been some changes, of course, in the DSM around multiple personality disorder. But could you remind me? It's been quite a while since I studied this,
Yes, yes.
particularly. So yeah.
And it's
So
really they hide the information.
mm,
The way I got into this was watching the show The United States of Terror that
yes,
was
I
produced by
remember that.
Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Yes, and Tony Collette does a great job of the transitions. DID is actually a thing. People really do. There's a spectrum. People really do have parts that are different personalities. Their brain is compartmentalized into parts that have absolutely different. You can see the different personalities. One may be shy and the other one's outgoing,
Hmm.
and they have different facial expressions, different language, different skills and abilities. It's really a thing, but there is a spectrum. So on the other end of the spectrum are people that may have the ability to get in touch with their genius part or their uniqueness or their childlike part, and or their artistic part,
Hmm.
like that. But these on the other end, you can they actually have different personalities. And I have a great example.
Okay.
Okay. I had a client whose boyfriend broke up with her, and she was so hurt, and it reminded her of her child, some childhood issue, some trauma. And she had ridden on this her boyfriend's motorcycle, and she loved his motorcycle, and she split into a kid part. The kid part decided to take motorcycle lessons. One of her kid parts doesn't read. The other part went to the class, and a third part was involved. And what happened was the teacher told her to go home and do the homework. The part that couldn't read did the homework and obviously didn't read the homework. They came back the next day and all got on their motorcycles for class. And she was going down the ramp almost toward to go off the embankment toward the woods into the trees, because the kid part got on the motorcycle and showed up for the class, but the core of
Hmm.
the body of the system grabbed the brakes, and the motorcycle lurched and flipped over on her foot. And she went around saying that it was the teacher's fault that she got on the motorcycle. We should sue the school. She made a big story. Later on in her treatment, she realized that was a part of her because she was a 50-year-old woman, highly intelligent, friends, able to function on so many levels. But when she was triggered by a trauma, she split into another part that it didn't make any sense, because an adult woman, intelligent woman, is not going to get on a motorcycle if she doesn't know how to ride it. So it was very confusing to her.
Where did she get the motorcycle?
Oh, she went to take motorcycle lessons.
Oh, got it. Oh,
I
okay.
so sorry. I get so excited about the story, but yes, she went to class like with all the other students.
Okay, okay.
They had these little motorcycles, 250 horsepower or whatever,
Right, right.
and basic beginner motorcycles. She just went to class with everyone else.
So when this happened, did she go by a different name or anything, or did she um, remember her life before this? Did she completely change into a different person, like in the show United States of Tara, or no? Or was
She
she
well,
totally
she had
conscious?
this. Sometimes there can be more than one part present at the same time.
Oh, okay.
It's called co-fronting.
Okay.
And and there could be one part that drives there, and then it was obviously the adult part that grabbed the brakes and stopped the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever really was angry and upset and I'll show them is the one that got on the motorcycle and decided to take lessons in the first place.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So, DID, dissociative identity disorder, is the same as multiple personality disorder?
Yes,
Okay.
it used to be called multiple personality disorder in the DSM-4.
Mhm.
The DSM-5 is when they switched it.
Which one is the one where people just kind of wander outside of their homes and they
Hmm.
completely
Yes.
forget about like that they have a wife and kids and they just disappear, they become a missing person, and then later on sometimes they reappear and you realize that this person has lived a completely different life and they're going by a different name, they have a different backstory, and they got married to a different person and have like two new kids or something, and they just, that
Right.
one I remember, that
Right.
dissociative identity disorder. I remember the stories and the
That's
cases
a
of that.
fugue, dissociative fugue.
Oh,
And so in the
interesting.
DSM-5, they it's DID is under the heading of dissociative disorders.
Mhm.
And so dissociative fugue is the type of dissociative disorder, and that one is very, very rare.
Oh, interesting. Do you see cases of dissociative fugue at all?
I have not seen a, a case of dissociative fugue. Most of them are DID, and they can shift into another part for hours or days
Mhm.
at a
Mhm.
time, but they don't wander off. Usually,
Right.
their partner or the people they live with m- know about it,
Oh, okay, okay.
and
And
and they even talk to the other parts.
their partner talks
Their
to
partners
learns to,
can,
right.
right?
Mm.
Right.
They live
Yes.
to they learn to live with someone that has, different identities, obviously, and talk to the
Yes.
different
Hmm.
identities. So I'm assuming that in your practice, right, when they come to you for a counseling on this, it's do they also switch, do you see them switching identities throughout your sessions? What is that like?
Well, it's fabulous. It's amazing, and it's really it just really fascinates me. So the reason I think is because the facial muscles must develop differently. That's why I think they can actually look like a different person.
Oh.
Because if they have a certain expression on their face
Hmm.
in one personality, I would think that those muscles get stronger. And
Right.
so it can make the face look different than when they're in a different personality. Because actually on Zoom, I can see when they're shifting, even though
Interesting.
I'm only seeing, you know, a small
Right.
portion of the person.
So when they're shifting, so you mean you can literally you see them, they just change into what looks like a completely different person, even though they haven't changed their outfit, they haven't done anything, they just purely by facial expressions, they turn
Mhm.
into a totally different person. That is fascinating. That's very fascinating. And then I mean, I'm assuming you just have to talk to whatever new personality is there, right?
Right, right. Hmm.
Okay,
Yes,
interesting.
yes.
So, what is it that you treat exactly? Like when people come to you for this, like what do you focus on in your treatment? Like what actually helps with this? Like what is your goal? Is your goal in treatment to get them to gain more control of when they shift, or what is the overall goal in treating someone with DID?
Well, the first step is having them acknowledge that they have it.
Hmm.
Sometimes they don't acknowledge it for into therapy, years in therapy, and the therapist doesn't know either.
Really?
So therapy can take uh, like 15 years.
Wow. Wait, how come the therapist doesn't know?
Well, a lot of therapists don't believe in it,
Why is that?
um, because there was a big controversy
Okay.
between Europe and North America. And Europe had this opinion that in in the New World they are talking about it and focusing on it so much that they're causing it to happen
Oh. Hmm.
by
When
paying
did
attention.
when did this happen, this controversy?
Well, it's still going on, and there's
Okay.
even a word for it that it's a $10 word. It's
Hmm.
called iatrogenesis, the causation of disease.
Mm.
And even by diagnosing someone as a certain thing, the person can become that thing if they
I
believe
can
that
see
about
how that's,
themselves.
yeah, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. I can see how that's possible. I can absolutely see how that could, you know, sometimes make matters worse, but
Right. If
also
somebody says, "Oh, I'm a procrastinator,"
right.
yes, then they can believe they're a procrastinator. But people cannot make this up. They can't make up. They wouldn't make up these bad things happening to them. They wouldn't make up the parts.
Mhm.
That would be a whole other disorder
Mhm.
if they spent all their time figuring this out.
Mhm.
Um, but there are other things in the DSM that are not true. They, for example, it says only one identity interacts with the environment at a time. That's not
Mm.
true in my experience with all of my clients. And this is a quote from the DSM-5. And another quote from the DSM-5 was about that the European clinicians think that the New World clinicians are encouraging more cases to develop. But there's a study that was done that says that that was done in different countries other than the United States that
Mhm.
said it was higher than 1%. Right now, they're saying only 1% of people have DID, but up to 18% of people with substance abuse disorder can have DID,
Oh.
which is really profound because if more people knew about DID, and I'll get back to the treatment because this is really, really fascinating and important. If more people knew about how to treat it and look for it, perhaps there would be not as much suicide because people who are working the 12 steps or trying to get sober or clean or whatever, there's a part of them that can't do it. And if they get in touch with that part,
Mhm.
then they might be able to stay sober. If we get in touch with the parts that are really scary or need attention,
Mhm.
we might be able to save more lives.
Mhm. Where does that become again? Like you have DID versus, that sounds like what you just said. I feel like almost everyone can relate to. If we get in touch with the parts of us that are more scary, then that obviously facing our fears and facing our dark darkness. I always say darkness is not a bad thing because we have to face it in order to get through it and accept it. But where does that become? Okay, that you have DID and you're just a normal person trying to figure things out.
When it's interfering in a part of your life where you can't function, well, actually, several parts of your life. If you can't do everyday things like feed yourself, clothe
Mm,
yourself, shower,
I
and
see.
show up,
And why does someone with DID, like, why would it be hard for them to do those everyday functionalities?
because um, the trauma. Let me give you an example. If a child, I have a client who was severely neglected and beaten and sexually abused in the in the home, outside, all the time, in many different situations. So their home right now as an adult can be very triggering, because going a bed, a couch, going into the refrigerator, there was trauma in all aspects of their life. So they could be frozen a lot, not able to move, and completely shut down, afraid to take a shower, afraid to eat because they were yelled at when they were eating breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they have to slowly get to know the parts of themselves, and and the parts will come forward, and they get to learn that nothing bad's going to happen in each everyday situation, so that they can take a shower, they can go to
Mm-hmm.
bed on time,
And
they
this all
can feed themselves.
and this only happens like if they're in this one person and not, or sorry, identity, right? They're not when they're in a like another identity. Like that's kind of the difference, right? With the ID, it's like only if you're in this identity do you experience these things, but if you're in another identity, you might experience something totally different, or obviously like have a different set of problems. And I understand that you're saying they could possibly happen together, but that's like the defining factor of DID, right?
It is sort of confusing.
Yeah.
So there is a very functional client who has um, a job, six-figure income, has a significant other, but they are having difficulty now because there is something going on in the world that is causing them to remember something from their childhood. What's going on in the present causes the part that was coping as a child to come forward. And that
Mm-hmm.
child is the part that can't do the stuff, that can't eat or sleep
Right. Right.
or take a shower.
Right. Yeah, I guess what I'm struggling with is again the same question: is when does this become DID? How can you tell? How can you diagnose someone or someone that goes to you? How can you say, when do you say, okay, I think it's we have something more DID here, and then when do you say, oh, okay, this is totally normal stuff?
So that's when you open the DSM and and look at the clinical diagnostic criteria, which are two or more distinct characteristics. I mean, personalities that have different. Actually, they do have different names
Mm-hmm.
and um, likes and dislikes. Some of them have different gender, sexuality, and race, even
Mm-hmm.
in the same system.
Right, right. Okay. Okay. So that's the more classic United
And the
States of
memory
term.
loss and the
Yeah.
memory lapse,
Yeah.
brownouts, times during the day or during the week that they can't remember.
Hmm. So it sounds like a part of the goals in working with them is to get them to be able to function regardless of which identity they're taking on. So getting them to be able to, do these, take a shower, get dressed, eat, if they did revert to, say, a childhood identity, correct? And just working with the childhood identity and being able to work with that, or is the treatment to tell them, is to teach them skills to not revert to those identities and keep a certain identity that perhaps works better for them? How do you treat these cases?
Well, the the theorists, the theories, and the typical practices, the typical ways to treat them are um, in internal family systems, which is a definite therapeutic technique. And some people use hypnosis, some people use DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and also EMDR, which
Mm-hmm.
works with the different brain hemispheres. And but I developed a simple three-step process that that you're right, everyone can use. And it helps to recognize when there's another part here, be curious about the part and find out what it is that you need or how we can help the part.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3 is to thank the part for getting our attention and helping us survive up until now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 3-step method. But to answer your question about can life coaches, is this important for them to know? Yes. The best treatment would be to have a life coach, a therapist, a 12-step program, self-help books, and years to get well. That's what really works to help someone heal. And the 3-step process is called Just Say Hi. So I'm going to tell you what it is. So when we say hi to the part that we're trying to shut down, ignore, push away, or is not able to follow through with the goals, for example, in our life coaching vision, or at school, or in our relationship, to say hi to the part of us, and not, instead of saying stop it or go away, we say, what is it that you want to tell me? Or is there a part, or can you help me help you?
I feel like that's I've definitely practiced that in meditational programs before, and like for example, mindful self-compassion courses, for example, that I've taken, or just even exercises in self-development courses. Yeah, definitely learning how to actually accept and read the parts of you that we were saying are scary, instead of pushing them away. Because obviously, what the famous law of attraction quote is, whatever we repress progresses, right? That's whatever we repress advances or progresses or gets worse, and it'll just catch up with us sometime in life. Yeah, but again, strictly specifically for DID.
A trained therapist is the best for DID.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay.
So what kind of patients do you see?
So I use primarily internal family systems, but I do use a little bit of hypnotherapy and life coaching, because a comprehensive approach is what works best.
Okay.
And but I have friends who are life coaches, just life coaches, and my life coach, my mentor, I in all the students I've seen, there are some students that have a block, that they reach a point and they're stuck, and it may be because they have an issue that's deeper, that a trauma issue that's deeper, that they might benefit from having.
It usually is because they have a trauma issue.
Yeah. And so some life coaches have the intuition and the gift and are able to deal with that, but some may not be as able to do that. And that's where a therapist or someone who's trained in both would benefit the person. But they both have merit, life coaching and therapy. Absolutely. Yeah. So when I saw you on your website, once again, you have such a deep understanding of parts that I feel comfortable telling you that I recovered from multiple personalities.
Okay.
It's me that is the real reason that I became so fascinated with it. And when I saw, right, okay, so
pretty much saw that coming.
Yes, so right, and
I just mean in the sense that we all usually what we're drawn to. For most of us, we obviously have some sort of story and background around it, and a lot of times it is parts of us that we're trying to understand. As
right.
well,
so the part of me that was talking to you on the phone was going, no, no, Julie, you don't want to do this. You don't want to go on and do this podcast. But the kid parts are saying, you must do this. You must tell people that if they have parts, it's okay, that they're not the only one. And, but Serena, you are a gift. You are a minority. You are a trailblazer. You are making it safe for people to come forward. And that's why I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Julie. That means a lot to me. Um, can I ask you some
You
questions
can
about
ask me
yourself?
anything you'd like.
Okay. So, how does it manifest for you? The your personalities, your identities, and are you aware of it when it comes out, or no?
Most of the time I am.
Okay.
And I have the greatest kid parts. They do really funny things. So we had to have a big discussion about who's going to get on the video. What part of me there's a kid that wants to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show. So this is like, that part is what helped me get on the screen because they want to be famous.
Oh, interesting.
But, and they were probably the ones that wanted to bought all this technology that I'm not using right now, but the microphone and the lights and all this stuff that I'm not using right now, but they wanted the box.
Okay.
It was a good excuse to buy it.
Mm-hmm. What about for you? When your kid personality comes out, I mean, do you totally shift? Like, would somebody say, "Oh, I don't recognize this person. Is this Julie?" Because I mean, at least I know for me, people would still be like, "Oh, that's still Serena." It's not, it's different, but it's not so different in a shift that people wouldn't recognize me or say that I have totally different facial expressions. But what's the case like for you?
My sister can will notice, and she has permission to ask me, "Is there another part here?"
Oh, okay. Okay. How many
Yeah.
parts do you have, would you say?
I have about 15.
15. And do they all have different names?
Yes.
Okay. And can you control when they shift?
Um, we can't control it, but when we're calm and centered and we've been paying attention to them all along on a regular basis, it's like having a family. We
Oh,
wouldn't ignore our children or the dog. If
interesting.
As long as they're fed and clothed and their needs are being met, they're fine.
Do they all have emotional needs, some different emotional needs, I'm assuming?
Yes, for example, if I didn't sleep well, I don't eat breakfast, and then we're going to go on a long trip and do an interview, that would not be a good setup for success. I have to make sure I sleep and I eat well and I do live a healthy lifestyle.
Right. Right.
Okay, so COVID is a good example of major triggers for everybody in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really big time to listen. So we do a lot of playing, and sometimes we have to really have a meeting before we go to the grocery store because we have to put a mask on our face,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't like that.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by you do a lot of playing and then you have a meeting? What is that like?
Um,
Because I have no idea I don't really know what you mean by you do a lot of playing and then you have a
okay,
meeting.
well, I have to put them in my schedule. Like if I work a lot because I want to bring this out into the public. So I
Right.
have some projects going on. If I'm working and seeing clients and I haven't gone outside or gone to the beach or danced or I have to, okay, we're taking the afternoon off, turn the music on, and I put on socks and I slide down the hallway in my socks and play music and, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
have fun.
And if you don't do that, then what happens?
Uh, That is a really good question that I don't want to answer.
Okay. Okay.
A part of me that's mean and cranky will come out.
Oh, okay. Okay. But is that a totally different person, another personality, like another, like with
Yes.
a different name? Oh, okay. So then that person comes out. Okay. What about you said that
And
you'll
you
have a
you would
meeting.
see it on
Oh,
my
okay.
face.
Oh, okay. Okay. What about when you said a meeting? You have to have a meeting
Oh,
before you go to grocery store because you have to put on masks. What do you mean?
well, I just check in inside and say, okay, is there anybody scared, or is there anybody that needs something? I want you to know that we're going to put the mask on and I talk to them like they're kids.
Oh.
Okay, sweetheart. Sometimes this is how I teach my clients.
Mhm.
People who have been traumatized often don't even know what it's like to be talked to in a nurturing, caring voice if they didn't
That's
have a
true.
mom and a dad who were nurturing. So I
Mhm.
say, pretend you're talking to a baby or a dog and say, okay, honeys, we're going to we have to put the mask on, but I want you to know it's only going to be for like an hour. We're going to come right home and we're going to take it off and then you can have dinner.
I see. I see. And then sometimes do one of your personalities have a problem with that, or like, do they ever object and take over?
Not in a way that's disruptive.
Okay.
The only way that would be disruptive, and which I thank them wholeheartedly for,
Mhm.
is if I were to go on a date and go home with somebody that I didn't know very well. They
Oh.
would really do
Hmm.
things that they would speak up.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they would take over basically,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Has that happened? It sounds like it's from personal experience.
See, I just don't have a poker face, do I?
It's okay, me either.
Well, yes, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and they just will not let me get into trouble that way. Because okay, this is way too much information. There was a teenager who would go get into trouble to get love.
Mhm.
And, not recently, but in the past,
Yeah,
years
teenager.
ago, she would serial date and and do things that, were not
Mhm.
healthy.
Mhm.
But it was replaying the childhood stuff
I
to
see.
put her in danger. She was used to uh, being
Mhm.
mistreated.
Mhm.
Now, if now I'm listening to the internal parts, the teenage part doesn't come out unless if in the past I had sex with a lot of men
Mhm.
when I was young because that's what was done to me.
Mhm.
If I was in a situation where I was being raped in the present, that part would come forward and do it for me because that part knows how to do it and protect the rest of me. And I might not remember what happened.
Mhm.
That's how DID works. And that's why it's so wonderful
Mhm.
because the parts that were created were
Mhm.
so that the core didn't have to suffer.
Oh, I
That
see.
part that could take the abuse
Mhm.
would do it.
Interesting, interesting. So the teenager would come out,
Yeah,
or okay,
yeah,
and and then you wouldn't remember it,
right.
but you
And
could. But there is a core part of you. Is that who I'm
yes,
talking to right now, or
yes.
okay?
And the parts know that now the core, they trust the core, and so they
Mhm.
don't have to come out. They know that I'm going to feed them and clothe them and never put them in danger. And
Oh,
if
I
danger
see.
were to happen,
Mhm.
I would get them safe. I would get help.
I
Whereas
see.
children who are traumatized, when they become adults, they don't know how to get help. They
Mhm.
continue to get re traumatized until they learn how to feed themselves. I have one client that doesn't know how to go to the grocery store as an adult. They
Why
don't
not?
know how to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
As they learn, then the parts will be calm.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
You
go
mean
away.
you mean she doesn't know how to go to the grocery store because she's living with her childhood parts that doesn't know how to go to the grocery store?
She lived in a family where she didn't have food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So she just never developed that skill. I mean, is that a
Right.
DID thing or is that
Well, severe neglect can cause DID. So if
right?
someone grew up in the middle of nowhere with parents that were not present and
Mm-hmm.
had to find food out of garbage cans, they wouldn't know how to go to the grocery store.
Right, right. But I mean, is that, I guess my question is that her core? Is that like her core personality, or is that another personality taking over, the one that doesn't know how to go to the grocery store?
The core is the part that's going to learn how to do. The core is is it can be very small when you first start recovery,
Mm-hmm.
but the core is the part that gets to learn
Mm-hmm.
and gets to grow. And then the other parts will also learn.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part, I believe, there's a part in all of us that wants to survive and wants to live.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That part always has hope,
Mm-hmm.
always is willing. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's another way. Maybe I don't have to kill myself. Maybe I can
Mm-hmm.
learn how to read. I learned
Right.
how to read and go to graduate school at 52 years old.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yes,
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think that will be inspirational for a lot of people out there.
yes. And
Yeah.
now that we know through neuroscience that we do make new brain cells,
Mm-hmm.
my life coach mentor
Mm-hmm.
um, is 70. Her mother was 85 when she started doing this neuroscience stuff and started to have a vision and want to live. And
Mm-hmm.
between 85 and 92, she created and she learned and she did all these marvelous things. So if there are clients that hear this,
Yeah.
they will,
Absolutely.
you absolutely still can have a wonderful life.
Yeah. Let's say someone with the DID was, or you yourself, just in your own experience, even, um, trying to hold down a job, trying to like, do these functional, like maybe not as simple as putting on a shirt or, cooking, but something more complex, like, I don't know, throwing it out there, working at a bank or something, right? Or being a teller or just having to answer to a boss every day. But then you might have these different personalities come out, right? And like, I mean, I'm assuming your boss might be really confused, or it's just it sounds like it's these shifts happen kind of spontaneously, maybe triggered by something, but it sounds like you don't always have control over when they happen. So how would you help them in that? Like what do you think might help someone with DID be able to live this type of a life, or should they, or would you recommend that they find a more suitable career path like what you're doing, where you can make your own hours and have your own clients? I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, unfortunately, somebody who has DID may be disabled. We don't use that word to speak about ourselves. I encourage the clients not to use that word unless they're going to the doctor's office or the disability lawyer. Then
Right.
you state the case, state the facts, and then we have a little talk afterwards and we say, we're doing great. These are the things, these are our strengths, and we go back to work on getting well. But
Mhm.
when you first start to get well, sometimes you can't work.
I see. What does get well look like? Like, how do you know when you're well or getting well?
When you are able to talk to the parts of yourself,
Oh, okay.
when you get to know the parts of yourself and they get to know each other. If um, sometimes it can be like having a national political convention going on inside where the two parties are all arguing with each other. And the first thing is to recognize the problem. Oh, there's an argument going on. Then go in and listen to everybody and help them feel heard. It's the same as what's going on in the world right now. When we listen to each other and we acknowledge each other, and especially if parts can be different race, different sexuality in the same body, I have a mini world inside me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So when they talk to you, do you actually hear them as words or no?
I'm so glad you said that. You asked that question. It's so everybody knows it's not like schizophrenia. You don't hear voices.
Okay.
It's just imagine having more than one brain. There's a brain for each part, almost like, so there's just different people, but one body.
I do understand it in the terms, or when I'm writing, if I'm writing something, I get completely, I call it Zen. I call it just complete writer's Zen, where I am no longer myself. I'm not talking who I am. Like it's something else is through me, talking for me. I love it when that happens. It's completely effortless for me. I don't even have to write. It's like the story tells itself, the character's talking itself. It's just like whatever is happening, all I have to do is type, and that's something that I love tapping into. I love tapping into that, and I just completely like lose myself. But I do remember what happens for the most part, although I will say that there have been a couple times where I have completely went like just blacked out in character, and I've just been that character on stage. And and that those are the best performances, actually.
Yes, exactly. Right. So that's a form of healthy normal. I don't like to use the word normal, but healthy dissociation.
I never even realized that there could be that. I never even realized that I was dissociating, to be honest.
Well, it's just disconnection from the norm.
Right.
It's really simple. Yeah. So once we learn how to, once in a while, I can call forth a part to do a certain thing, like
for
when
example,
I write.
Oh, okay. What part do you call forth to write?
Yeah. Yeah, when sometimes it's one of the kids that is doing the writing, but if an adult part is saying you have to sit down and write, ain't gonna happen.
Interesting.
It has to come from the part that can actually do it. I can't force it.
Oh, interesting. But you do try to call forth different parts to help you, it sounds like, with various tasks.
Yeah.
And can I ask you, like what the different, some of the different personalities are and their names and what they're known for or what they help you with?
Oh, I just saw one come. I just felt the one that wants to go on the Ellen show.
Oh.
She's like, oh, Serena wants to see me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get her to show up, but I could try. You know what? I don't know what her name is, but the newest one, actually, it's not a new one because the parts get created when you're very small, between birth and like 7, 8, 9 years old.
Oh, really?
Sometimes you can have a fragment or something, but there's a part named Peanut. And so.
Who's Peanut?
It's the littlest one that doesn't have words.
Oh.
But when I can call it up, I think it doesn't have a gender, because actually when kids are born, they don't know if they're a boy or a girl. I mean, inside they do,
So
biologically they're
Peanut's really
hormones.
young.
Yeah,
Peanut's really super young before Peanut even knows whether it's a boy or girl. Wow.
yeah,
That's like
yeah.
fascinating that that's so far ahead. I mean, I can't even remember, it's like my life before two. And I know that I can.
Well, I don't. I just there was a stuffed animal that just by seeing this face of the stuffed animal, it reminded me of, brought forth the emotion of the
Mm.
kid.
Oh, okay.
And I could say, "Hi, Peanut," and it's just this little cute little
Oh,
before the damage.
Peanut sounds really cute.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll go get the stuffed animal to call forth the feelings so that I can call
Oh.
forth the part that needs love.
Oh, and how do you know when Peanut needs love? Like, how do you know when to call forth Peanut?
If I have too many adult responsibilities going on,
Hmm. How does
go get
Peanut,
Peanut.
but how does Peanut let you know that it wants
Oh,
to be
that
called
is a fabulous question. You're really brilliant.
forth?
You
Yeah.
totally get it. I can tell because one of the grumpy, okay, the mean part comes out.
Oh, I see. I see. How is the mean part formed? Like,
You mean, what is it?
yeah, what is the mean part? Does the mean part have a name?
Mean. I tried to change its name, but yeah, yeah,
But
that's what its name is. I'm like,
so how
really?
how old is mean?
He's a teenager.
Oh, okay. It's a he. Okay. He's a teenager. He sounds like he throws temper tantrums. Yeah. It's just from what I think of a mean teenager. It's just a
Yeah.
mean teenage boy throwing temper tantrums,
Yeah, so I
being
go,
reckless.
so the three steps don't have to go in order. So the third step is thank you. So sometimes I'll say thank you first for getting my attention,
Hmm.
and then say hi, because that's the first step. And then I'll go back to the second step and I'll say, is there something I can help you with?
Right. Wow. And what does he say? Does he say, "Oh, can you call forth Peanut?" Or does he, does he know to that that's what you need? Or does he just say, "Oh, like this sucks," or something?
Yeah, there's too much, there's too many projects, appointments,
Okay.
responsibilities. We're like over too much.
I mean, that's actually kind of really cool that you can talk to all your parts that way and they tell you, because I feel like what most people struggle with without such specific identities, that they can actually talk to so specifically, is like most people struggle with trying to figure out what the heck is up with them. Trying to figure out, why do I feel this way, or
Hmm.
why am I, but it almost sounds like if you actually have those parts that are telling you, they're helping you. And already there's telling you, okay, I'm not happy because you're doing too much stuff. But for a normal person without, like, I don't like using normal either, but like, just a person without such specific dissociative identities, it might take them a really long time to figure out why they are so moody.
Right. But those people can go to yoga or do
Uh,
meditation, or just, if somebody says, take a deep breath, they'll take the deep breath. But if somebody tells me to take a deep breath, I tell them where to stick it, because that doesn't work, because it's like telling the kids um, to stop feeling their feelings. So they don't get it. They don't
right.
get it. They can't go to yoga,
Mm.
because sitting still reminds them of, oh my God, something bad's going to happen if I'm not hyper vigilant and be like, okay, you know,
Mm. How old is the oldest personality that you have? Because we're talking about
yeah,
Peanut and
adult.
adult. How old is adult?
Mm, I'm not sure, but somewhere 40s probably.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's
I'm
not that
60.
old.
I'm 62.
Oh, okay. Wow, you
So
do not look 62 at all. You look like you're 40s.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's maybe because of the kids.
Oh, because they keep you young.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're all younger than you. Huh.
Well, they were formed.
When it's in
Yeah,
your lifetime. Is it so can someone with DID have older personalities too, like older than they are? Yeah.
yeah.
How does that
Sometimes,
get formed?
sometimes it's like an older sibling that is formed.
Okay. Okay.
I
Someone to
don't
watch
think I
over
have
them.
anybody, a client that has like formed a parent.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. But that does happen a lot.
I'm not sure. I can't really speak to that, but I don't have any clients that have uh, an adult
Okay.
um,
I'm
part.
just so curious, like how, if you could share a few more of your different parts, like, I mean, I guess they're all interesting, but I'm curious. You mentioned three
The
so
one
far.
that took the motorcycle lessons,
Hmm.
that's the most interesting part.
Is that you? Oh,
Um,
that story was you. Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
I didn't realize that story was you. I mean, I just figured you had experienced this, but
No, it was me.
okay, okay.
And if you played the tape back, you would probably be able to tell that I was stumbling a little on the story.
Hmm.
I did leave out a part. Now you'll be able to go and see the parts because it was on the tape that you have. One of my parts was going, no, leave, don't tell her the whole thing because
Hmm.
I was scared about telling the story.
Oh,
So that's why
scared about saying that it was you?
this is the first time I've gone public in this way.
Oh my gosh. Wow, I am honored. Wow. Okay. How do you feel about that?
Totally ready, comfortable,
Good.
and knowing um, that people need to know this because once they realize that it's okay,
Hmm.
they'll be able to feel better with
Yeah.
even if they didn't go to therapy or life coaching or anything,
Yeah.
they'll know that they're not crazy.
Right. Right.
DID happens to highly intelligent people. That's because their brains have the ability to compartmentalize.
I think I mentioned this in my first podcast, the intro podcast too, is like a lot of times mental health diagnoses are happen to people who are very intelligent, like highly intelligent. And yeah, I was even just having a podcast the other day where we were talking about, depression and suicide. Like it often occurs to people who are extremely intelligent as well. So, it's a very common myth that people think that it's for people who are stupid or lack intelligence. That's usually not the case. But then again, it affects every single population, regardless. It just doesn't matter, IQ and all of that. It's
When
just.
people identify, I love what you said, and they identify their uniqueness and find their genius
Mm.
and then get to know their parts,
Mhm.
we're all so similar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so glad that and honored that you have uh come out with this today with me on camera and for our video audio podcast.
I hope that I get to talk to you again about the three-step method and so that you can use it and people can use it
Yeah,
because, and I want to put a billboard, just say hi. And
yeah, yeah.
because saying hi inside to our parts is like gold,
Hmm.
the best thing ever
Yeah,
for people that you work with. For
yeah, absolutely.
I teach this to my chiropractor, my own therapist,
Yeah.
anybody who will listen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that the what you said, just saying hi, like I said before, yeah, not just for people with DID. It's obviously, we could all use it. We can all learn to, appreciate all the different parts of ourselves and not hide it and not bottle it up, and appreciate our darkness. And it's like, what is darkness anyway? I don't even really know if I like that term either. A lot of this is semantics, but yeah, I think all of our parts are beautiful, and we should absolutely honor them and love them, and not feel like we need to hide them. And that way we get to live a much more mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, and much more fulfilled life. All right, so thank you so much, Julie, for coming on board, and I do hope
Thank
we get to
you.
chat again.
I hope
Absolutely.
so too. And
Yeah.
best wishes. I love your mission.
Thank you
I'm
so
gonna,
much. Thank
yes.
you. Thank you, Julie. Yeah. And we'll look forward to, when does let me know when your 3-step method comes out, and I'll make sure to share that with the world. And thank you so much for sharing yourself with the world today. And it was such a pleasure chatting with you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I will see you all soon. Bye.